let's see how to deal with the data lake now. Data lake is another it's a logical space. It mostly uses the space from either from your SQL serverless workspace or the dedicated pool. So the word data lake, treat it as a database actually. So the underlying architecture on of how we interact with the data lake is SQL. So if you are aware of SQL queries, then it's fine. We can interact with the data lake.
Hmm.
So what it does, see the main operations we do on a data lake is similar to SQL. We do the row selection of rows and columns using the select query. We can, okay, why do we need a data lake, right?
Hmm.
So if there are multiple types of data, for example, you have a folder for CSV and then you have a folder for JSON, right? If you
Hmm.
want to join these two and generate a combined result set. uh,
Okay.
So one of the questions in the previous sessions was, how do we interact with different types of data sets? If your customer data is coming in as a JSON, and if your transaction data is coming in as a CSV, so how do
Hmm.
you generate a transaction summary for a customer? These two are different types. In this case, use a data lake and then create an external table for both. Create customer tables
Combining
from
both and then create an
yeah.
external table in the
When
data
you
lake.
create both of them as a table, so it comes to the data lake workspace as SQL tables only. So because at the time of creation, you would have given the data types and everything. So we have customers, we have transactions. So here, querying those two tables on data lake using SQL is a lot easier than interacting with two different file formats.
Okay.
So this is what is meant by transformation of data from one format to another without changing the nature, or without actually modifying the data. It is just a restaging process in different formats for our convenience.
And this will be done through the pipeline or
Any
batch?
query you build, this is the operation we are talking about.
Oh, I
Pipeline
see.
is pipeline is nothing but creation of reading the file and then getting the data and then creating a external table, and then creating one more, reading one more file and creating an external, and then writing another query to club this data and then printing it a visualization. So all these steps combined together is called a pipeline.
It's called the
If
pipeline.
you
Okay.
if you streamline it and then schedule it to do it in a daily basis, that is when we say a pipeline is built and scheduled to run on a required interval.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is just one of the operations in the pipeline.
Okay.
And calculate the derived data field is what I meant by the combining of two different external tables. Manipulation is again a transformation. These things are very much business specific. Some
Hmm.
people want to append something to some columns, or some people want to get rid of some things. And then grouping and aggregation are only the reporting purpose. Again, if it's an estimates, if you want to create a summary of estimate according to the items or customer or the branch level summary, or the company level, or geo or geographical location wise summary, and then pin code, or if you have a customer with multiple shops, then you want to take only that customers or the vendors report. So these are all business logics for the reporting purposes.
एक छोटा सा क्वेश्चन था सुनील
Yeah.
जैसे हम कल हम we were making those charts right based on the operation that we ran on the SQL query के base पे हम लोग we were making that chart a pie chart
Hmm.
or the bar chart.
Hmm.
For example, I'm doing this for a client, right?
Okay.
So the client, how would client get to see that result in what format? Would they be sent a separate link or
Okay. So when
this
you
was
have the
I know it's a
yeah, yeah.
sidebar question, but it was just stuck in my mind.
No, yeah,
It's a
it's
very
it's actually a very 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 advanced question. So we will cover a topic called Power BI as part of this process. Okay, so
Okay.
Power
Okay.
BI is a visualization tool. It's a very powerful visualization given only for the clients. So whatever you do until the generation of that diagram, the pie chart yesterday, what we did. So
Okay.
till that step is not visible to the client. Client is interested only in that visualization part.
Exactly.
He wants to see the split, and then he wants to get dig deep into each of those slices and see the data for himself for some decision making in an ideal
Yes.
world. So
Yes.
when you publish your pipeline and the end result of the pipeline is your dashboard, that dashboard is published on Power BI, and the
Oh,
clients
I
would
see.
have login access
Access
to
to the
Power BI.
dashboard.
Yeah, if their login access will be assigned to a read role of project which you would have created or somebody would have created, with that read role he should be able to see the dashboard in his workspaces. So when you log into Synapse now, under data you will see the workspace and linked objects which you have created, right? Similarly,
Okay.
he will see the object he has a read access to. So if we click on that report, it will open only the result set from your pipeline
Hmm.
which was run for that particular day.
Okay. Okay.
So they
Sorry.
will have access to result set. Yes.
Okay.
No,
Okay.
that's a
Sorry,
good
that was just
question.
stuck in your mind. That how
No problem.
do they get to see the results? Okay.
Yeah. So they would have a user, they would have access to your work, but they would see only the results. But
Okay.
can they come and open your Synapse workspace and work? No, they would not have access to those resources.
Because he's just a client. He just wants to see in a
Yes.
very,
Correct.
in an
Correct.
enriched way that he wants to just be wants to be good interface that he can just read the data.
Correct.
Right.
The
Yeah.
technical term is RBAC, a role-based access control. So you are a developer, you have more access, and he is a viewer access, just a consumer access. So
Okay.
he would consume only what you ask him or give him to consume. That's all. So this okay. When we create a data lake database, we need to create an identity for it. So identity, there are multiple types. The shared access key SAS is one of them. So this is creating a secret key password. So these values are auto-generated. You can use the WYSIWYG. You can go to your data storage and then go to monitor, and then under that we will see a shared folder where we can generate multiple keys, and this key can be unique per customer. And if they have a read access on such certain files, if they open their storage explorer, they will create a link with this shared access to your storage location file, the storage
Yeah.
files. Okay, so here
Okay.
we are creating a credential called storage key cred, and then we are saying what type of the key it is. It is SAS in this case. Secret is the password. You either you have to create a complex password. In most of the cases, the system generates one for you, a unique one, which is not shared across any other platforms. And using that, you are creating a external data source called secure files. Here you are pointing it to a location in your storage account, which is the data lake now, and you are assigning a storage key cred, the secret key. So if you are a developer, you have done this. As a client, I want to receive the secret from you. Either you send it in an encrypted an email or a password locked file to me, and you let me know the password in a different email. I will open that password protected file. I'll get the secret, and then I will open my workspace. I'll try to link this source with the given location by using this shared secret key. In that case, the similar way how link data storage, and then you will see it in data linked tab. I'll also see the same file in my workspace. So
Yeah.
this is how a secret key is involved in sharing the data in the same platform across different users. So create external file format. We are creating a Parquet format. Here, the format will be Parquet, but the data compression algorithm will vary. The Snappy codec is an algorithm built on Apache to encrypt and decrypt data. You might have heard that 128 or 256 byte encryption, right?
Yes. Yes.
So, similarly, this is one of the algorithms of encrypting your data. So, just treat it as a data scrambler. And out of all three files we have dealt, CSV, JSON, and Parquet is the only format is not human readable. Even if you
Okay.
open the file, it'll be of binary format and you won't be able to read it.
Hmm.
So for all the sensitive information, ideally the recommendation is to use a format something like this, where nobody can reads the data by mistake.
Okay.
So how do you create an external table using a select? So forget about the first part. So you are already aware of select order ID, customer key, order total from
Hmm.
open row set. Bulk is the location, data source is your files, and then format is CSV, parser version is so and so, header row is true, and then you are ordering the data by special order. Okay, you're putting a filter order type is equal to special order. So this will
Hmm.
list the order customer order detail from this file where order type is equal to special order. Now you are aware of this select class. So how do you use the select class to create the table? So that CETAS is a short form of create external table as select.
Okay.
So if you remember CETAS, you have the syntax already. Create external table, table name. The with clause will actually define the list of columns actually. So it will give you the location where to store this data. It will get stored in a special order. Though it is an external table, the result is getting stored in a file.
Hmm.
So under special orders, you will see a file called special orders. I mean, there is an underscore. There is a this is the local folder name, and this is the table name or the file name. So we will see when we do the exercise. And the
Okay.
data sources files the same, and the saved format is Parquet, what we created earlier. And with defines the properties and close the with and add a as statement. And you if you write a select, all the result of this select query gets stored as a file called special order in special order files folder, and a table is ready for you to interact with. So next step, if you write a select star from special orders, the data will be picked up from this folder and file, which is in the Bucket format. Since we will be mentioning, the file format is mentioned in the creation itself, we don't have to worry about encryption or decryption.
Hmm.
So it will be a simple select star from special orders and it will show you the result. Saving all this effort, you just do this on a daily basis, and anybody who interacts with a single statement, not with the open rosette command. And how do you drop an external object? So while creating, we did a create external table name with as a select query. Here we'll do a drop external table name, special orders. Okay, stored procedure. So what is a stored proc? So whenever we wrote a select, create, or whenever we write multiple SQL statements, they act as a single statement. When you execute one statement, a query execution engine gets that statement independently, processes it, and then gives you the result back. For
Hmm.
example, if you run three statements differently, all three were did hit the SQL Server database independently on their own in a sequential order. But if you want to do that action and then club all the related statements together, you create a stored proc. Stored proc is nothing but a list of SQL statements combined together to do a unified task. Okay, so in this case I am creating a table. So what I do, the syntax is create procedure name as begin and end. Anything comes between begin and end is considered a executable statement. It can have any number of executable statements. And
Mm-hmm.
the first block, I am dropping if a table exists. So how do I know a table exists in a in a database? In this case, we are dealing with external database. The system table is sys standing for system dot external tables. This is a metadata table. So when I say metadata, you consider, if you consider yourself as an object, right, as a human being. When I say
Mm-hmm.
metadata, what's your metadata? You have a name, you have a date of birth, you have a
Mm-hmm.
physical appearance characters like you have a height, weight, and so and so. Let's not get into other details.
Mm-hmm.
So that is the metadata part. So similarly, when a table is created, the information about the table is a metadata stored in external tables, and the
Mm-hmm.
table name is stored under a column called name. So if I see an entry in these external tables with that table name, that means it exists.
Mm-hmm.
So before creating, I need to drop. So what I'm doing, if this table exists in the external tables, then I'm dropping external table as the same table name. So
Okay.
delete the table if it is already there, and then you create it. We have seen this in the previous slide. Create external table
Yes.
special orders with location, data source, file format, and the select query. So ideally, why do we need a stored proc? Okay, there is something called input output cost. Whenever you are writing a query in your Synapse workspace, if you do a select star from special orders, the control, as soon as it sees a go, I mean when you say go execute and fetch me the results, the control
Mm-hmm.
will go to the DB engine, executes the given query, and then get the results back to you on the pane. If you do it multiple times, if you do it 10 times, there are 10 IO calls made to the DB server. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
that is the a computation cost is involved, and there is a execution cost as well. But if you write a procedure here, all the statements are pre-compiled and created in the database itself. So when you execute a proc, you're not sending the SQL queries, you're sending the procedure name to the database.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, when that procedure gets invoked in the DB, all the statements are invoked within the DB itself. There is no input output interaction between your workspace and the database. So
Mm-hmm.
this reduces the IO call. So in our previous example, I mentioned 10 SQL queries. If you have a 10 SQL query within the proc, and if you call this proc, it is considered as one IO, one interaction with the DB, though you
Mm-hmm.
executed the same 10 statements. But if you execute the 10 statements manually, the DB will be called 10 times. So
Mm-hmm.
computation wise, that creates a network, that creates a traffic, you know,
Yes.
between your system and the DB. So there is a data flows between each traffic, and every time that happens, your CPU gets loaded.
Mm-hmm.
So 10 is a very minimum number. We will, it is about millions of transactions.
Yes.
So procedure ideally reduces that IO and improves the performance for the user. One. Second,
Okay.
the security wise, why do you need a proc? When you give access to any user to run a query, you don't control on what they run it, right? They can run anything. They, instead of external tables, they might get external users and then try to get all the usernames, and they might use that information to create some SQL injection script for that authorized user, and might hit the Unix database,
Mm-hmm.
right? So this is one of the main security scenarios, for example. So here, how does the proc helps? You will be given access only to execute the proc and not to dictate what the proc should have or the statements within the proc. So when you create a procedure, you're restricting the operation yourself. You will only tell them you execute the proc, and proc will execute what I have coded. So this gives that the developer sense of security of you are controlling the statements which are being executed. So that
Okay.
is the security boundary. You don't give access to the executioner to run anything he likes. He should only run what is there or what is tested on the system within the proc. The next
Understood.
advantage is the maintenance. When you have a similar operation done on the same database for multiple clients, you can create the operation once in a stored proc and then give access to that stored proc for multiple clients. For example, here I'm writing order year as an input parameter, which is an integer type. For example, the estimates report, if you want to generate it yearly wise, you have parameterized with an year and then you add something called customer. That's a parameter. And when you run this query where order type is equal to so and so, you add order year is equal to the input parameter and the customer is equal to input parameter. Customer as a parameter to that proc is mandatory. So this proc can be given access to multiple customers, and we will ask them to call this procedure along with the year they want. For example, 2020 comma uh, the uh, the customer name basically. If they pass their customer name, and they will be able to get the report for themselves. And then as part of security, you will also ensure that the given customer name is part of the login user. You don't want other companies logging in and generating the summary for other customers, right? That is part of the SQL execution, SQL maintenance, and
Okay.
that improves the maintenance aspect of all the SQL work. Okay, this is some more theory around the same thing. How do you, what do you need the stored proc for? The best example is when you are staging something to get yearly or monthly data, you may have to create the folders in advance. So the stored procs can actually do that work for you. You can create a generic stored proc and then use it in a pipeline when you run the monthly jobs. So by default, it will create the new folders for you. For example, 2024-01 for January, and then if your data retention, when I say data retention, there will be agreements with the client to say that
Mhm,
the historical data will be kept for so and so dates, right?
mhm.
And then once that date is passed, for example, if my agreement is 24 months, so anything before December 2021 is not needed for me. So I can schedule a monthly job to create all the files which are created before 24 months. So
Okay.
all such activities can be handled in a stored proc.